Welcome to the Caminada podcast. Here's the place to find support and guidance on your spiritual awakening and healing journey. It is my mission to help you awaken, heal, and expand your consciousness. Hello, beautiful soul. Welcome back to the Caminada podcast. I am so glad and grateful and honored that you chose to listen to this podcast. So this is part 2 of our episode shifting into 5D consciousness. If you haven't heard the first part, I recommend that you listen to that one before so that it gets clearer. Or if you're a rebel, you can listen to this one first and then you go back to the previous one. So in this episode, I will talk about the characteristics of the 5D level of consciousness, how we, both as individuals and collective, are shifting into these higher states of consciousness, and why the 5D is so important and so talked about at the moment. And also, I will talk about how we can apply this knowledge into our everyday lives, because it can get a little bit out there, as in, okay, we're talking about dimensions, we're talking about consciousness, higher dimensional beings, whatever. How does that affect me as a human being here today in my day-to-day life? So this is what I want to wrap up this episode with. So last episode we talked about the difference between dimension, density, and consciousness. We got this out of the way, that we're not leaving planet Earth, we're not going to a place, and that consciousness is within us. All right. So just before I get into today's episode, I would love to have you subscribe to my podcast in whatever platform you're listening to. And if you can, please write a review on my podcast on Apple Podcasts, because when you do this, you help me reach more beautiful souls and help fellow humans to expand their consciousness. All right, so let's get into today's topic. Come on, Will, talk about this. What's the 5D? What's up with the 4D? Right, so essentially 3D, third dimension, which is where we live as human beings. Essentially, 3D equals linear time and space and duality. So linear time and space, physical space, matter, past, present, future, and duality. Me versus you, good and bad, negative, positive, dark and light. And then 5D is the opposite of that. It's the expanded perception of time and space. Expanded perception of time and space. So there is no past, there is no future. And it's also where the heart guidance is. 5D is heart, love, oneness. That's where the oneness becomes clear, and we actually live from this principle that we are all one. And so basically 4D is the bridge between 3D to 5D, is the way to get to 5D. And 4D equals the realm of the collective mind, where all of our history, all of our traumas, everything is recorded, the Akashic records, if you're familiar with that. So that's where everything is, it's like the library of humanity, right? And so 4D is the bridge, but it is a little bit attached to the 3D duality. And it's also a little bit attached to the 5D, but it's not there yet. So the 4D is where a lot of people are and have been in the last couple of years, or not even just couple of years, I would say the last years, the last century perhaps, because that's the sort of the transition phase. It's like, I think I would say it's like the awakening phase. That's a 4D level of consciousness. And so I hope this is clear, and I'll just pinpoint some of the characteristics and differences between the 3D and 5D so that this gets clearer for you. So like I said, 3D has to do with polarity and duality. It's a lot of dark and light, and evil and good, and we know because we live in the 3D world. So there's this illusion of separation, that we are separated, that the other is not an extension of me, is separate from me. And then 5D is the opposite to that. It's non-duality. We are all one. The other is an extension of my being, and everything else is an extension of my being, because we are all one. So that's like number one difference between 3D and 5D. In 3D, there is this sense of identification. So we live our lives perceiving ourselves as a label. So nationality, race, gender. And then obviously, because we think we're separate, this causes fights, causes wars. It's like me against them. Whereas in 5D, instead of identification, we have unification. So equality. Soul, light, is more soul than ego, is more light than darkness. In 3D, there's this idea of suffering, that things happen to us. Whereas in 5D, there's the idea of evolution. And so if you want more light, if you want to be more in touch with your soul, you might face the shadows, you might face darkness, but that is helping you to evolve. In 3D, there is this mindset of lack. So it's never enough. We need more. I'm not enough. I need more money. There isn't enough for everyone, right? Because again, it's the idea of duality and separation, whereas in 5D, the mindset is of abundance and contentment and gratitude. There is enough, because we are abundant beings by our birthright. And then I mentioned this before, in 3D, we have the idea of linear time. So we tend to dwell on the past, we forget the present, and we worry about the future. Whereas in 5D, we just have a more expanded concept of time and space. So you live more mindfully, you live more in the present, you accept the present as it is. And that can be a little bit confusing, because we are still living in a 3D world. So that doesn't mean for us, like the past and the future is real for us. And we still need to, quote unquote, obey to the laws of 3D world, in the sense that if I want to plan something, like if I want to catch a flight to go to Japan, I need to plan, I need to book a flight for the next month, for the next week, right? So we're still living with the understanding of linear time, but our perception is expanded. We know there's more than that. We know there's a different time that's not the linear time. That's when we start thinking about past lives or parallel lives even, and we just understand that there is a divine timing too that doesn't match what our ego thinks. So it's this unification of the ego and the soul. And the last thing is fear. 3D is fear-based. There's a lot of fear in 3D, and that's how, quote unquote, people in power manipulates the mass through fear, right? And we just have this fear again of the future, of what can happen, and we internalize certain traumas and tragedies from the past, even in our DNA as a collective, and we live from that fear. Whereas in 5D is pure unconditional love. 5D is actually in our hearts, is actually linked to our heart chakra. And I mentioned in the previous episode that each dimension has gatekeepers. The 3D is the gatekeepers are ourselves, the human beings, and 5D is the Pleiadians, which I can talk more about it in a future episode. But the Pleiadians are higher dimensional beings that they are full of love. Like, their thing is unconditional love. Everybody who has some kind of contact with them feels them in their heart because it's pure unconditional love, and that's their mission, to help us access this unconditional love in our hearts and in our lives. This podcast is sponsored by the Chakra Bombs. The Chakra Bombs are hand blended and customized to help you balance the 7 chakras. Each bomb contains over 120 drops of 5 custom blended pure essential oils, specifically focused for each chakra. So all you have to do is you apply a small amount of the chakra bomb onto the corresponding area of your body before your yoga, your meditation, breath work, or any other spiritual practice. And you can also use them daily to assist you in being more balanced, more open, more connected, and grounded. And on top of all of that, they smell amazing. If you would like to get yours, you can use my promo code Caminada10 for 10% discount on the full set. Just go to www.chakrabombs.com, go to full set, type my promo code Caminada10. I promise you'll love them. So I hope this was clearer. Hope this has helped you. And just to wrap up this episode, I really want to talk about like how to apply this knowledge in our lives. Because one thing is you're listening to this, you're learning something about 5D, 3D, or dimensions and stuff. How can we apply this in our lives, in our day-to-day lives as human beings? Because like I said, we're not getting our suitcases and going to the 5th dimension. We're still here, we're still in the 3D world. And by the way, just want to say this really quickly. When you're listening to this, or when you're reading a book, or when you're watching a YouTube video, or when you're watching a movie, and you're having insights, you're having aha moments, even if perhaps you can't really rationalize or understand what it is, this is the expansion of your consciousness. That's how you expand your consciousness. Knowledge is a big tool to expand your knowledge, and then your consciousness, and then with the knowledge, with this expansion comes the experience as a human being in this 3D world. How can we apply a more 5D consciousness, level of consciousness in our everyday lives? So I have a few tips. First one is meditation or spiritual practice, any kind of spiritual practice, whatever spiritual practice means to you. But I think meditation is really, for me, the most important practice within the spiritual practice, because that's when you sit still with yourself. That's when you sit with your emotions, and that's when you access this guidance from your heart, from your spirit guides, from these higher dimensional beings. That's in meditation. So for me, meditation is huge. Remember oneness. That's the next one. Remember oneness. Remember oneness is a practice. It's not easy, especially when you're in traffic. No, especially because we have been conditioned to believe that we are separate, and that's for us, that's the reality in a way, because that's when you see someone else, the physical form of someone else, you believe that you're separate because you're not the same, like physically you're not the same, right? But that's a practice of remembering that energetically we are one. We came from the one consciousness. And so that helps us be more compassionate, have more love in our lives, and just remember that, everyone is going through their unique journey, but the same journey as a collective. So the next one is growth and evolution. Remember that we are here to grow and evolve and expand our consciousness, and we as human beings, we grow and evolve through experiencing pain and experiencing the darkness, because without them, how can we evolve? How can we find the light within? Okay, so meditation, remember oneness, growth and evolution, and the next one is let go of the illusion of time and space. But of course, you're still living in the 3D world. So like I gave you the example of booking a flight. I don't mean don't book anything, don't think about the future at all, but let go of that illusion of time and space. Remember that there's more than that. That involves a lot of trusting the process, trust the course of your life, and just being as present as you can be. And the next one is always remember love. Always remember love. Love yourself. Go back to your essence. That's a very 5D consciousness. Like I said, it's your 5D consciousness is in your heart. Remember the Pleiadians, they're the gatekeepers of the 5D consciousness. They are pure unconditional love, and that's what they want us to remember. Go back to your essence, love yourself, and love others as an extension of yourself. And the last one is embrace your humanness. Remember that it's all an experience, right? You are a divine being of light having a human experience, so embrace this experience. And remember that the whole universe is inside of you. We are like a reflection, tiny reflection of the whole universe in a body, in a physical body. That's amazing. So when you remember who you truly are, your essence, that's when you heal, and then you awaken, and then you expand your consciousness, and that's you contributing to the evolution and ascension of the whole universe. As you grow, as you evolve, as you expand, as you heal, the whole universe does the same. So remember meditation, remember oneness, growth and evolution. Remember you're here to grow and evolve. Let go of the illusion of time and space, but of course still living in the 3D world. Always remember love yourself, love others as an extension of yourself, and embrace your human experience. Remember that you are the whole universe in this physical body. Well, I hope this has helped you. I hope you have a little bit more clarity on what 5D consciousness is. If you would like me to do a podcast, an episode on the 9 dimensions of consciousness based on the work of Barbara Hand-Clow, please let me know in the comments. Please send me a message and I'll be happy to do so. I have been studying her work and I've been fascinated by her work. So I'd love to share what I'm learning with you. I really feel like when I learn about these things, and when I read and when I watch videos or listen to podcasts, I really feel my consciousness being expanded. So that's my hope that yours has been expanded a little bit too, listening to this podcast. All right, if you would like to experience a really deep meditation that will guide you into higher states of consciousness, I recommend that you listen to my most popular meditation on my shop. It's called 3D to 5D Consciousness Meditation. It's available right now on my shop, and you can go to www.willcaminada.com/shop. As usual, I'll leave links in the show's notes. It's a it's a really powerful meditation. It's on my shop because it's 30 minutes, and it's really powerful. It's got theta waves and binaural beats that you really go very deep, and you can connect with your spirit guides. You can experience higher states of consciousness. So I highly recommend that you do so. And that's it for now. Don't forget to subscribe so that you don't miss any future content. And as usual, I say keep shining your light, keep your heart open, and let love lead the way. I love you. See you in the next episode.